So she left Diddy and was married, but felt the need to go out to dinner with Diddy to get closure. Somehow Diddy comes into her and her husband's new home, forces himself on her, and when she tells Diddy to stop, he just keeps going. She said he finished and his eyes were black. So after all this has happened, she goes out on another date with Diddy after he forces himself on her, and she's married, has a great time, and willingly has sex with him. Then when they asked her, why did you have sex with him after what he did to you the last time in your house? She says, because I was with him for 10 years. Think about that. You go out with the ninja that just forced himself upon you, let him hit, and you married. What the hell? What the helly?
I was in the courtroom as Cassie was testifying, so let me tell you guys everything that you didn't see or may have not heard, because it's a lot. I will say the most damning part of her testimony for me is when she describes a freak off where Diddy and another man, an escort, are standing on top of her while she is laying on the floor high off of ecstasy, and they are urinating on her face to the point where she is choking on their pee. And to further give context, on the right-hand side of the court seated is her husband, Alex Fine. On the left-hand side, Diddy's 6 out of 7 kids are sitting in the courtroom as Cassie is describing having weekly freak-offs for years that would last 2, 3, one lasted up to 4 days. She talked about damaging hotel rooms so bad in one instance that they had to pay such a hefty fee because the hotel told them that they needed to completely redecorate the room after a freak off. After a freak off, there would be blood, urine, and lots of baby oil. There was so much baby oil. There was also so much baby oil talk to the point where the judge at one point told prosecutors, wrap it up. But before we even got there, a very pregnant Cassie was called to the stand. She was wearing a tight brown turtleneck dress that was hugging her baby bump. When she sat down, you could tell she was nervous. And if you couldn't, you quickly picked up on it because once she started talking, you noticed that she paused a lot. She would sigh heavily before she answered a question. One of those moments was when she explained to the court that a year into their relationship, that Diddy had approached her with this fantasy that he had. He called it voyeurism, where he wanted to see her have sex with another man, later referred to as freak-offs. She said her stomach dropped. She was 22 years old. She described herself as very naive and a people pleaser. She said the only reason that she agreed to it is because she knew it would make him happy and she was afraid what would happen if she said no. That's also around the time, she says, that he started to get abusive. Most of her testimony today was spent on talking about these freak-offs, the different escorts that they would use, the different hotels that they would use. She said that she would find escorts off of Craigslist and this escort service called Cowboys for Angels. And to describe them, they weren't the most attractive men, right? They were very average looking. Some of them weren't even conventionally attractive. One thing they had in common is most of them were black because Diddy preferred for her black men with a big D, she said. At one point, Cassie broke down in tears when the prosecutor asked her, why didn't you leave? If the freak-offs, as you explained, were so disgusting and humiliating, why not leave? And she started crying and said that she was very deeply in love and this was the only alone time that she could get with Diddy. And it got to a point where this was kind of the only emotional connection that she was getting from this man that she was dating. So much more that I'll cover in another video, including his incessant phone calls, him tracking her down with his security, and her never being able to escape him.
I genuinely do not think it's a freak off. Not that I don't think. I think we all know, or at least people that know what actually happens in the dark realm. I think we know that this was a satanic ritual. Cassie and Diddy were involved. Maybe the innocent party would be the escorts. They probably had an idea of what was going on, but Cassie and Diddy, when they did those things, they knew it was for satanic reasons. Sadly, Cassie was naive at the time. She was young and probably manipulated into doing these things. Not probably, she was definitely manipulated into doing these things, but she knew she was dealing with the devil. So girl, if you knew that these were satanic rituals, why did you not leave? Like, there has to come a point where you're just tired of being a slave. Because being the devil's slave is not nice, you guys. Like, it really isn't. The things that you, because it's the devil's job to make you feel worthless and nothing, and it's God's job to ensure that you feel like royalty. God says we're clean. The devil will make sure you are dirty. I mean, the satanic baptism is full of pig's blood, urine, and all these and apparently and doo-doo and all these nasty things. Why would you get baptized in such dirt? Can you see the difference between Satan and God? Like, honestly speaking, I feel sorry for Cassie. I genuinely do, because she didn't know much. She was still young and she was manipulated, but she knew she was dealing with Satan. That's the thing. That's the thing. These are like satanic rituals. These are satanic rituals. They're satanic rituals. They're not freak offs. Can we stop calling them freak offs? Because they are not freak offs. These are satanic rituals, and we all know that these are satanic rituals. Can we stop decorating it with freak offs, this freak off, or sex, or the? It wasn't a freak off. That was a satanic ritual that was dedicated to a satanic entity, and Cassie knows that, whether we like it or not. Not to say I don't feel sorry for her. I actually do. I really do. But she knew why that was done. It wasn't to please Diddy. It was to please the spirit in Diddy that he conjured up during the freak offs. Yeah. Tell me what you think, guys.
The witness testimony in Diddy's case today is going to leave your jaw on the floor. The courtroom wasn't just tense, it was traumatized. And baby, even his daughters had to step out. Yeah, let's get into it. The first witness was Israel Flores, a former hotel security guard. He testified about the incident involving Diddy and Cassie. He saw Diddy drag her by her hair down the hallway and into the hotel room. And his words, Diddy looked devilish. And they've got surveillance footage to back it up. This isn't just word of mouth. They brought the receipts. The second witness was an escort, and his shocking confession blew everyone's mind. His name was Daniel Phillips, and he testified Diddy paid him thousands of dollars to engage in actual acts with Cassie while Diddy watched. He said Diddy would get violent and aggressive, and one time he allegedly threw a bottle at Cassie and dragged her again. And he screamed at both of them. And get this, Daniel said he was so disturbed, he stopped showing up. The escort walked away. That should tell you everything. This is a pattern, not a one-off. Prosecutors aren't just building a case, they're building a timeline. They're showing the pattern of abuse, manipulation, and power trips masked by fame and money. These weren't just freak-offs. They were alleged operations of control. There are over 100 devices seized from Diddy's homes. Phones, hard drives, computers, and the Fed said it will take a month to go through it all. Courtroom energy was heavy. The testimonies were graphic that Diddy's daughters left the room. Yes, his own family couldn't sit through it. The public gallery was shocked. The jurors were reportedly stunned. This isn't just tea, it's gasoline on fire. Diddy's lawyers are saying this was all consensual between adults. They admit he has a temper and passed with drugs, but they are saying that doesn't make him a criminal. But when the prosecution is dropping tapes and timelines and emotionally wrecked witnesses, that consensual card starts to fold. All eyes are now on Cassie Ventura, who's expected to testify soon. If she does, it could be the most damning moment of the entire trial. She's the thread that ties all of this together. Her testimony could make or break this case. Y'all, stay tuned, stay seated, and stay ready, because the tea in this federal courtroom is hot, and we're just getting started. Y'all better get ready and buckle up.
It is Wednesday, May 14th, and I've got all your Diddy details. Cassie is back on the stand today. She talks about the incident at the Los Angeles hotel in the hallway, the 2016 video that we've all seen. Now, I've heard that the video we've seen is nothing compared to the original, and I cannot imagine how it could get any worse. She said he threw a vase at her and it missed her. I don't remember exactly his words. I'm sure he was calling me something other than my name. Security was eventually called, but Sean made it clear that Cassie was not free to leave on her own accord. She talks about how after this hotel incident, Sean showed up at Cassie's apartment banging, yelling, screaming, kicking outside the door. She doesn't even know how he managed to get into her building up to the 17th floor. But he never did get inside her apartment that day. The court is now looking at photos and text messages after the hotel incident. Cassie said she had to go to a movie premiere, The Perfect Match, and she had bruises all over her face and body. She had to change her outfit to cover the bruises on her legs and had to apply a lot of makeup to cover her black eye and fat lip. Now, I looked up Perfect Match premiere, and if it's the same pictures I found, it does look like she has a lot of makeup on. Her lip does look like it could be swollen, and it looks like there's like a cut above her eyebrow, but I don't know if that scar is always there. They then talk about the freak offs again, and she says how ketamine was her preferred choice to take because she could disassociate the most on that. The prosecution shows her dozens of photos of escorts hired for these freak offs, and she remembered many, but not all of the names. She remembered Ash, Islander, Skylar, and Jake. They were from the website Cowboys for Angels. Don't remember his name. He looks familiar from Freak Off, she said to one picture. Cassie says when Sean was upset with her, he would frequently remind her that he had videos of her in these freak offs. It's horrible and disgusting. No one should do that to anyone. It could ruin everything I worked for and make me look like a slut. I wasn't supposed to be in those videos. I didn't want to be in them. She brought up the time that Sean brought up the videos the night of her birthday when she was out with her girlfriends having a good time and didn't want to leave. Sure enough, Sean blackmailed her and made her leave to go to a freak off. Cassie remembers hosting an event in Atlantic City when someone she was working with said they saw a Smex tape of her. So I reached out to Sean. I need you to call me ASAP, according to a text message from March 9th, 2014. She said leaked footage like that would put my career in jeopardy and cause me great embarrassment to my mother and my family. She said after the freak offs, she would be tired, achy, dehydrated, not really eating much. She said she had an addiction to opiates and would take pills so she could feel numb. She said the freak offs would cause her to have urinary tract infections, mouth sores, and stomach problems. She said when the freak offs were back to back, she would get infections, and even Cipro, the antibiotic, wouldn't even work anymore. She couldn't do anything to flush out her system. The mouth sores would come from the repeated use of oral lubricant. She says it was really painful for a long time. I can't believe I actually dealt with it all. Prosecutors asked Cassie if she was a swinger, and she said, what he told me is we could swap partners, a certain lifestyle, and that was a turn on for him. She said this lifestyle included going to Smex clubs, which Cassie did not enjoy. When she didn't want to go, Sean pressed the issue. She said some of the time he would try to turn the energy around to keep it positive, become playful and funny and not scary. He would push and try to convince me. She said she would be afraid at some of these freak off parties, which often turned violent. Sean would put his hands on me, he would push me down and kick me. There were other times if we were having a bad time or if I was scared of him, uncontrollable typically, I would leave and go out the back of the hotel. When asked by prosecutors how often Sean would injure her during these freak offs, she replied, too often. Cassie also recalled on their way back from a trip in France in 2013, on the flight, he pulled up freak off videos on his laptop. He was showing them with other people around. I said, you are embarrassing me. I was scared and I felt trapped. She also recalls in 2013 the time that he gashed her face in. She had to go to a plastic surgeon to get the wound treated. Sean came in. I was asleep. He was trying to attack me. We went to the master bedroom. My friends were jumping on his back, trying to stop him. I cut my eyebrow on the corner of the bed. Sean threw me onto the bed frame. I had significant gash and had to go to the ER. It was a Sunday. Sean had security take me to a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. After the incident, she said she texted Sean a photo of the injury, writing, "So you can remember. You don't know when to stop. You have pushed it too far." Prosecutors presented a text message exchange between Cassie and Sean where she says, "You treat me like Ike Turner." She says he was abusive and controlling. He was physically abusive. He put me down a lot, as much as I would be built up for, to sheer embarrassment of how he treated me and in front of other people. They have now taken a break for lunch. This was your morning recap. I'll be back later this afternoon with the second half of the day. She's going to return back on the stand after lunch.
Guess what I just heard? Court did break for a very specific reason. They are about to play the freak off videos. And guess who's sitting front row? Diddy's sons are in the courtroom this morning. His daughter's nowhere in sight. He even whispered to his mom, "I love you." Baby, the tension is thick. Before the break, the judge gave the green light for the jury to see the actual video evidence at the center of this whole case. Y'all remember Daniel Phillip, the male escort? He said some of the encounters lasted up to 10 hours. And sometimes Cassie would go back into the room with Diddy, and then they'd call him back in again. The jury just walked back in. The screens are up and the videos are queued. Do you think Diddy's sons know what's about to be shown?